I'm Amy Goodman. You're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Amy, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, Republicans to push Keystone XL pipeline as new Congress convenes. And out of Burundi, 100 rebels killed in clashes with military. And out of Guatemala, genocide retrial of former dictator Rios Montt delayed. And out of Germany, tens of thousands oppose anti-Muslim rallies. And Florida becomes 36th state to allow same-sex marriage. And James Risen refuses to discuss source in court appearance. And California Governor Brown inaugurated with vow to act on climate change. And oil price dip to 6-year low amid fracking boom. And 2 NYPD officers shot and wounded. Drops in arrests continues. And a judge agrees to consider release of Eric Garner grand jury records, and in Ferguson's grand jury sues for right to speak about case. An undercover probe finds mistreatment of chickens sent for slaughter. And suicide of transgender teen sparks mass call to ban conversion therapy. And CIA Inspector General to resign for private sector job. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television, division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV, but before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County, and welcome our new education channel, 18. In today's first world news story, the new U.S. Congress convenes with Republicans in control of both houses for the first time in 8 years. Republicans now have 246 seats in the House, their largest majority in nearly 70 years. The new Congress is also more diverse than ever before, with a record 104 women, including Utah Representative-elect Mia Love, the first black Republican woman in Congress. Women still make only 20% of lawmakers, while people of color make up only about 18%. The top of the Republican agenda is the push to approve the Keystone XL oil pipeline, with lawmakers in both houses expected to file measures in favor of the project. In Central African nation of Burundi, more than 100 rebels have reportedly been killed following days of heavy clashes with the army. The military says rebels entered the country from neighboring Dominican Republic of Congo. The news comes as United Nations and Congolese forces say they have launched strikes against Burundi rebel groups based in eastern Congolese borderlands. And in Guatemala, the trial for former dictator Rios Montt on genocide charges has been delayed shortly after it resumed following a 2-year pause. In 2013, the former U.S.-backed military dictator was sentenced to 80 years in prison for genocide and crimes against humanity, with the mass killing of Ixtlamayans in the 1980s. But a court annulled the verdict less than 2 weeks later. Rios Montt, who was 88, appeared in court Monday on a stretcher covered with a blanket where he lost bid to be excused on medical grounds. Retrial was postponed after his attorneys accused one of the judges of bias. And tens of thousands of people have rallied against racism across Germany amidst the rise of anti-Muslim protests. Small amount of people in Germany compared to how many are actually there. On Monday, the latest rally by the anti-immigration group Patriot Europeans Against the Islamization of the West drew record 18,000 people dressed in the city's landmark Cologne Cathedral shut off its lights, leaving the surrounding square in darkness in a bid to deter the protesters. Same-sex couples are getting married across Florida after a state judge lifted a temporary ban on unions. After the lifting, Judge Sarah Zabel presided over the two same-sex weddings, including one between plaintiffs Catherine Pareto and Arguello. I don't know. And they said, we've been together for 15 years. It's been, now our family is recognized like every other family, and our love is just as good as everybody else's. And our son is finally going to have a family that's not second-class citizens. He has a family like everybody else and deserves the same respect and deserves the same dignity as everybody else. As many of the 14 counties in Florida have reportedly opted to end all courthouse weddings rather than by complying with the rules provide weddings for same-sex couples, Florida is now the 36th state to allow same-sex marriage. New York Times investigative reporter James Risen has appeared in court and refused to answer questions about an alleged source. Monday's hearing in Virginia took place ahead of the trial of former CIA officer Jeffrey Sterling, who is accused of giving Risen classified information which revealed the botched CIA plot to disrupt Iran's nuclear program. Risen has waged a 7-year legal battle against the Obama administration attempts to subpoena him and force him to reveal his source. It is unclear if Risen will be forced to testify at Sterling's trial. Risen's hearing comes as the administration is backed off on its threat of subpoena another journalist, 60-Minute producer Richard Bonin, at a trial over bombing of Al-Qaeda. New York Times reports the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, Preet Bharara, has withdrawn his recommendation to subpoena Bonin over his interaction with Al-Qaeda's press office in 1998. California's Governor Jerry Brown has been sworn in for an unprecedented fourth term with the sweeping plan to address climate change, the new word for global warming. In his inaugural speech, Brown said California must lead the way for the world is to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. He said, I propose 3 ambitious goals to be accomplished within the 15 years. First, increase from 1/3 to 50% our electrical derived from renewable sources. 2, and even more difficult, reduce today's petroleum use in cars and trucks by 50%. 3, double the efficiency of existing buildings and making heating fuels cleaner. U.S. oil prices have briefly dropped below $50 a barrel for the first time in nearly 6 years. The drop in prices comes amidst the boom in oil production inside the United States, spurred by the rise of drilling known as fracking, which environmentalists say raised dire health and safety concerns. In New York City, 2 police officers have been shot and wounded while pursuing suspects in an armed robbery in the Bronx. Shooting comes as New York City's police have continued their apparent work stoppage following the fatal shootings of 2 officers last month. According to the New York Times, over the past week, arrests are down by half while parking and traffic tickets dropped to more than 90% over the same period the previous year. Police are protesting Mayor Bill de Blasio's comments on police brutality and racial profiling. On Monday, Mayor de Blasio addressed the decision by hundreds of police officers to turn their backs on him at the funeral of his slain colleagues. He called the action disrespectful. Well, I think it was intended. He said they were disrespectful to the families involved. That's the bottom line. They were disrespectful to the families who lost their loved ones, and I can't understand why anyone would do such a thing in a context like that. I think it just defies a lot of what we all feel right and decent thing to do when you're dealing with family and pain. I also think they're disrespectful to the people in New York who, in fact, honor the work of the NYPD. Well, they might honor it, but he doesn't seem to. A judge in New York has agreed to consider unsealing documents from the secret grand jury decided not to indict Officer Daniel Pantaleo for the chokehold killing of unarmed African-American Eric Garner. Garner's family, New York Civil Liberties Union, public advocate Tisha James, and New York Post have all pushed for records released. New York State Supreme Court Justice William Garnett agreed to hear their arguments on January 29th. Demonstrators have also vowed to resume weekly protests over Garner's death after a pause followed the murder of the 2 New York police officers last month. In Missouri, a member of the grand jury has declined to indict Ferguson's police officer Darren Wilson for the fatal shooting of unarmed Michael Brown is suing for the right to speak publicly about the case. The lawsuit accuses prosecuting attorney Bill McCullough of presenting possible charges to the grand jury in a muddled and untimely manner, and noted the case was stronger focused on the victim, Michael Brown, than other cases. It also challenges the implication that all grand jurors believe that there is no support for any charges against Wilson. The jury is challenging a lifetime ban preventing grand jury members from discussing cases. A new uncover investigation has revealed the inhumane and potentially illegal treatment of chickens at slaughter in a plant in Butterfield, Minnesota. The uncovered video filmed in the Butterfield Food marks the first ever expose at a slaughter plant for so-called spent hens, egg-laying chickens, who are sent to be killed once they're no longer deemed profitable. Paul Shapiro, Vice President of the Farm Animal Protection for Humane Society of the United States, described the group's finding in a phone call with reporters and said, "What we found and documented on video in Butterfield is truly sickening. Perhaps most horrifying is that many birds in Butterfield are scalded alive, killed by drowning while fully conscious in tanks of scorched hot water. These hens are called cadavers by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they are called redbirds by the industry because of the color of their skin turns red from blood rushing to the surface because their hearts are still beating when they're submerged in these tanks." Disgusting. Petition and ban so-called conversion therapy for transgender people received nearly 300,000 signatures in Change.org following his suicide late last month of Leila Alcorn. Alcorn was a 17-year-old transgender woman who walked into traffic after leaving a suicide note describing how she suffered from conversion therapy attempts by her Christian parents to change her. She wrote, "My death needs to mean something. My death needs to be counted as the number of transgender people who commit suicide this year. Fix society, please." Inspector General of CIA David Buckley, who presided over probe into the agency's hacking of the computers of the Senate staffers investigating the torture program, will resign at the end of the month. CIA said Buckley will leave his post after just more than 4 years to take the job in the private sector. And that's it for the world news today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News. That's right, it's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Saturday, 1:11 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Neal Street reported a man with rubberized trousers yelling at people and throwing a bike. He was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public. 5:34 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Sierra College Drive reported a man refusing to leave, filming the caller and being rude. He was advised not to return. At 7:51 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Neal Street reported theft of alcohol. At 9:11 p.m., a caller from Sierra Mobile Home Park requested extra patrols due to a man who knocks on windows and doors in the area in the middle of the night. At 9:16 p.m., a caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported theft of a cell phone and bag with sacred Indian artifacts from a vehicle. 11:25 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Harris Street reported something large under a house chewing on wood or bone. Sunday, 12:29 a.m., Caller from 1000 block of Sutton Way reported a man and a woman fighting in a vehicle. At 9:06 a.m., a man from 800 block of Sutton Way reported a homeless man was trying to fight him and refusing to go inside to avoid a fight. No one was located. 1:46 p.m., a man from 2600 block of Ridge Road reported finding a cash register dumped in his yard with the money till missing. 9:17 p.m., a caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported transients outside cooking with propane tanks which were burning on the hood of a car. And 10:42 p.m., a caller from Baden Avenue reported a man hit a woman. A report was taken. Monday, 12:45 a.m., a caller from 300 block of Columbia Avenue requested extra patrols due to ongoing theft of gas from vehicles in the neighborhood. 4:30 a.m., a caller from 300 block of Mill Street reported a meth party going on. What a surprise. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Sunday. 8 a.m., a caller from Highway 20 and Melody Road reported an ongoing issue with a horse getting loose. 9:07 a.m., a caller from Highway 20 and Melody Road reported a cow on the side of the road, or a few cows. 10:58 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Rainbow Ridge Road reported multiple items taken from an unlocked garage. 1:16 p.m., a caller from 22,000 block of Swenson Ravine reported neglected horses. 1:30 p.m., a caller from reported Sun Forest Drive assaulted 4 children. They did not need medical attention. 2:17 p.m., a caller from Lodgepole Court reported a theft. And 2:49 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Combie Road reported aggressive man panhandling who was admonished. And 3:59 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Little Deer Drive reported 2 men in a fight. They were separated. At 4:41 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Alto Sierra Drive reported 2 people in a vehicle smoking drugs. They could not be located. And 6:58 p.m., a caller from Torrey Pines Drive reported a boy tearing up a residence who put a hole in the wall. Nevada City Police Department on Saturday. 8:11 a.m., a caller from 300 block of South Pine Street reported people camping. And 10:10 a.m., a caller from Business 200 block of Commercial Street reported finding fecal matter on the front door. Extra patrols were requested. 11:20 a.m., a caller from 200 block of Nevada Street reported a suspicious man knocking on the door at 3 a.m. And Sunday, 12:53 a.m., an attempt was made to overtake a vehicle on Highway 49 near Sacramento Street were driving at about 100 miles per hour. 10:27 p.m., a caller from 700 block of Zion Street reported the maintenance room might have been broken into. No one was located. And that's it for the blotter today. Now, another thanks to another one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. We just expanded out to 200 mentions a month. In today's local news headlines, traffic stop reportedly reveals pot being driven to Maryland. And an Economic Resource Council to host Economic Summit. In a first story, a deputy spotted a woman who had been reported as missing in a vehicle earlier Friday morning, which then led to an arrest of a driver on multiple weapons and drug charges. Nevada County Sheriff deputy was driving on Limekiln Road about 1 a.m. when he spotted a vehicle parked on the side of the road with lights on, said Sheriff Keith Royal. Vehicle matched the description of one associated with reported missing persons. When deputy attempted to contact the occupants, the driver reportedly sped off at a high rate of speed, Crossing the double yellow lines during a pursuit, the vehicle then pulled into a driveway on 11,000 block of Limekiln Road. Passenger was a woman who had been reported missing, while the driver initially said he had no ID and gave a false name. The woman reportedly was known to be associated with a man identified as Stefan Antonio Cordova, and the driver eventually admitted he was Cordova. Cordova reportedly was driving on a suspended license, had 2 warrants, one from Sacramento, one local. Local warrant was a misdemeanor case dating back to February in which Cordova was charged with providing a false ID, driving on a suspended license, possessing drug paraphernalia, and speeding. Failed to appear for a court date, and a $5,000 warrant had been issued in March. During a search of the vehicle, deputies reportedly found a Ruger pistol under the driver's seat, as well as about 4 grams of methamphetamine and a pipe. The gun came back as stolen from Missouri in August. Cordova reportedly admitted he knew it was stolen and that he had purchased it in Sacramento. Cordova reportedly then admitted to having marijuana in the back of the vehicle. There was a lot of marijuana concealed in compartments all over the vehicle in vacuum-sealed bags, Royal said. Cordova said he was delivering it to Baltimore. In all, Royal said deputies found 10 packages of marijuana ranging in weight from 16 ounces to 35 ounces, as well as Food Saver vacuum sealer. Further search reportedly uncovered a Red Bull can with more than 21 grams of meth inside a hidden compartment and 3 cell phones. Cordova was booked into county jail on suspicion of possessing and transporting a controlled substance, possessing and transporting a controlled substance for sale, possessing a controlled substance while armed, possessing drug paraphernalia, possessing stolen property, driving on a suspended license, providing a false ID to a police officer, carrying a concealed firearm, and being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition, as well as outstanding warrant, being held in a $52,000 bail, and a report that's like the size of a phone book. Nevada Economic Resource Council, in partnership with Center of the Arts, will hold its annual Regional Economic Development Summit on January 29th to give local residents and community stakeholders an opportunity to learn from economic development leaders visiting from cities around the nation. The ERC Summit is particularly important this year because we went through the strategic planning process as a board, ERC Executive Director John Gregory said, and in that we had our vision to make Nevada County the most economically competitive rural county in the U.S. in 5 years, which is a pretty ambitious objective. So this event comes on the heels of that. Held at the Grass Valley Veterans Memorial Hall, this year's summit, titled Winning the Jobs War, Sierra Foothills Road Map of Success, aims to bring together CEOs, technology executives, community leaders, government officials, and business owners from across the region and country to explore various methods of economic development and job creation. To win the jobs war, we need to prioritize and leverage our most effective assets, Gregory said. That's a legacy of video broadcast and digital media expertise, along with the tremendous culture and arts community that we have here. We need to stay the course and stick to this long-term endeavor, and we need to look for effective models that have been implemented elsewhere and apply it to our situation in Nevada County. The summit's keynote speaker, Joel Kotkin, is an internationally recognized authority on global economics, political, and social trends. Kotkin is a senior visiting fellow at the Civil Service College in Singapore and serves on the editorial board of the Orange County Register, writing weekly columns for the paper. He also regularly contributes to the Daily Beast and has published reports on topics ranging from the future of class in global cities to the rise of the growth corridors in the U.S. economy. Kotkin has recently published Forbes magazine with a story highlighting the top 15 and mid-sized cities in 2014. He will be on hand to share the results of those whose communities were, why they achieved success, and what we as a rural set community and county can learn from as we move forward in our strategy. The event will be feature panel discussion from economic leaders from 4 cities around this country and recently had success in creating jobs and transforming their local economies. Panelists include Economic Development and Civil Center Director for the City of Asheville, North Carolina, Sam Powers, and Executive Director of the Economic Council in Boulder, Colorado, Cliff Harold. Roger Lee, Executive Director of Economic Development for Central Oregon, will also be a panelist and says he hopes to share some of the strategies of his group he's using in Oregon. Economic development is not just something you do in bad times or in times when you need improved economy. You got to have it sustained through good times and bad. It is really a team effort. You're not going to see success where you've got one organization going out there trying to accomplish things by themselves. You've really got to have the connection with the local city leaders and businesses to have all the components and people pulling in the same direction. Panelist Silnova Rab is an Assistant Director for the City of Austin's Economic Development Department, says she looks forward to network with different cities and officials and to learn from them. And this would be interesting to try to get there.